Morning everybody, fantastic to see you all again. I'm back in the woodland and the place I love, but what is better than a morning like this where the rain's just hitting the canopy and falling down, and it's just, the sound's just so beautiful. And what I'm here to do is talk about my favourite lens in woodland photography, and that's the 24-70. And why that's my favourite lens, I want to go through that. And it's always a lens that I put on at the beginning of the day and pretty much always on at the end of the day when I'm in conditions like this. So anyway, let's start with this scene I'm in here and these amazing silver birch trees, which just look phenomenal with the wet bark, and so do all the leaves around me. I love it when it's just rained and I've got a little bit of mist. So I'm going to take this shot. I've been a little bit careful about the edges here, so the edge over here, certainly the edge over there, and you can see the trees that I've got in. I think it's a good starter, and it's shot on, I just need to go and check, it's shot at 28mm this shot, so at the wider end of the 24-70, and well, there's not much else to say. F11, about a 4-second exposure, done. So this is an old favourite of mine, Wise, and the conditions here now today are pretty much the same as when I took it, although it was raining harder, so the bark was a lot wetter in the one that I took. But I'll take this again, I think, because it's just a little bit different. We've lost a tree over there, so it'd be good as a record shot as much as anything else. But this is a good example of why you need that little bit longer, so up to the 50mm end, and why that sort of probably 35 to sort of 60mm is so great in woodland. So here I'm around about 35mm, but if we zoom in now to 50mm, you can see that I lose that light in the top left, and that extra bit of zoom in woodland just gives you something special. So that 24-70 is just a perfect lens. Occasionally you want a little bit longer than 70, but the reason I don't really like shooting longer than 70 is that then I have trouble with depth of field, because the longer you go in your focal length, the less depth of field you get. But this is amazing. So I'm going to focus on the tree here, shoot at around 50mm, and the rest takes care of itself. Beautiful. Fog is amazing.
Let go, rain. It's not your song to sing no more. Goodbye, blame. Weights can't lift you up, but you can find a way to drop them.
Oh, do you know what? I heard that dog shooting here in the woodland. I don't have Pebbles with me. She couldn't come out this morning. It just doesn't feel right. So I think what I'm going to do is either go back and get Pebbles or come out with Pebbles another day, and we'll continue this video, because I'm sad without Pebbles, and I've been away from her for quite a few weeks now. So next time you'll see me and Pebbles.
But you can find a way to drop them.
So guess what? Who I've got? I've got Pebbles! Yay! So I went back, got Pebbles. She wasn't with me before because I was dropping my kids off at school, and she couldn't fit in the car I was in, so I've gone back to get her. We're in a different woodland. The mist has lifted a little bit, but it's still good because it's wet. So see if we can find some compositions, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about the 24-70 lens with my best buddy.
Well, you will find your way. In the meantime, may the sun bless you with its rays.
Oh, are you coming too, Pebs? Okay, so I just wanted to point out this little scene here. There's some nice leaves there. A lot of the leaves have dropped off. Pebbles, don't jump on the ferns. No, the ferns are part of the composition. We've got to be careful. Okay, so I like this fern here. I like that sort of tree with a little bit of changing colour in the leaves of that oak tree, that small young oak tree. It looks brilliant. So I'm going to try and compose something with this, and this is where sort of the longer end, the 70mm end, works. I mean, there's quite a big distance between those two, so I think I might have to focus stack it. We'll see. But I should just about get away at maybe f13 of getting it all in focus. I think I'm going to focus on the fern though and not worry too much if that drops out of focus, but I'll try both and see what happens. Right, Pebs, I'm going back to my camera now.
It's how we learn. It has to hurt, it has to hurt. Every single turn.
One of the other things that I love about just having a 24-70 is that it just becomes a little bit more restrictive, and I think just changing lenses all the time, you know, thinking about what lens you're going to use is often a recipe for disaster when you go out, because you're just going to be concentrating on focal lengths and settings and things like that rather than the compositions. I don't really like going out with a prime because I think that's too restrictive, so I just think this 24-70 is perfect. I don't have to worry about changing lens, I can just stick it on. The focal lengths are really good for Woodland, and I'll show you some photos that I took in my book Woodlands between 24-70 millimeters.
You're not someone's victim. It has to hurt. It has to hurt. You can ask spring how it is when the buds are bursting. You can watch the birds when they fly across the world. Weights can't lift you up. You can find a way to drop them. When the new ones weigh you down.
Just a top tip, if you've got some woodlands and you're trying to find a composition, it's always good to go to the edge of the woodland where you get more light. So you can see it's sort of dappled light here, and it's very overcast, but that light shining in, you can see how it's just creating sort of a 3D effect on this tree and the others down there. If you go further into the forest, and you get multi-directional light rather than just one direction, and this adds a bit more modeling to the trees and can bring out the texture. So just a top tip, see if you can find a composition close to the edge of the woodland, and it can often help your photos. Right, where's Pebbles gone? Pebs! Pebbles! Gone. Okay, so I've got this shot here, and I really like the texture on these trees. There's a little bit of colour in the ferns. I could do with a little bit more colour on the branches up here, but I like it. I think it's good. I'm going to do a vertical and a wide shot as well, but there's quite a lot of depth required in this. And this is a good example where if I was shooting much longer than sort of 50-60 millimeters, I just wouldn't get everything in focus. So I focused about here, and then hopefully that'll bring the focus back to that tree that's nearest and drop it to this big tree here. And I'm just not sure about this part of the image down here, but it's nice. I think it needs a little bit of the mist we had earlier, which is a shame it's gone, isn't it, Pebbles? Anyway, good. That's what I think too. Let's take the shot.
Oh, don't mind the fall, break down and when it burns, please. Don't be concerned, 'cause it's how we learn. It has to hurt, it has to hurt. Every single turn, don't beg your pardon. You're not someone's victim.
Okay, so a lot of people ask me about the f2.8 and the f4 lenses, and certainly in the 24-70 Nikon range, the f4 isn't a huge amount worse quality than the f2.8, but the f2.8 is a lot more expensive, it's a lot heavier. So I would always recommend this f4 lens, certainly for the Nikon system, because it's amazing. I shot the majority of my woodland photography, Woodlands book, on the f4 lens, and in fact I think around about 60% of the shots are shot with this 24-70 f4 lens in that book. Unless you're going to shoot at f2.8, which to be honest I never do in woodland photography. I'm usually shooting between sort of f8 and f13. I want more in focus rather than less in focus. Some people like to shoot f2.8 and do something a little bit different, but that isn't for me. Anyway, it looks like the cloud is come down a little bit. I can certainly see a little bit higher up there. It looks misty, so I think I'm going to take a shot here, go a little bit higher, and see what I can see. Oh, I love being in the woodland again. It's so nice. Faroe Islands was amazing. And that's sort of the majestic landscape. But, oh, this is just so relaxing walking through Woodlands with Pebbles. Where's she gone? She's gone. There she is. Right, I'm going to take this scene, then walk up there. So as you can probably tell that I am not in England anymore. In fact, I am in Tenerife, and I didn't find much mist just after I just did that piece of camera there. I took this photo, I'll show you a photo now. I took this photo, which was really nice, of these trees. I've shot it so many times, but I wanted to say something. I've come to this really nice sort of laurel, I think it's laurel tree area of Tenerife. It's a little bit like Madeira. There's a lot of mist. I'm quite high. I'm currently 950 meters above sea level. And the sun's just starting to peek out, which is a shame, because I wanted to try and get some of the mist in here. But as you can see, as the sun comes out, everything changes. The whole dynamic of everything changes. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the 24mm end, because I think that the 24mm end of the 24-70 is a really useful end, but much wider than that gets difficult. Woodland is complex. You know, it's really difficult to get a shot that is simple in woodland, because as you can see here, it's really complicated. There's often lots of trees, ferns, branches, different lighting conditions. So if you go shoot a little bit wider, and that's why I like shooting at 35 to sort of 60, 70 millimeters, then it's easier. You can get some good shots. Here's an example of a good shot I've got with a 24mm, where I have my camera really on the base of the forest. But generally, it's quite difficult. What I'll try and do now, though, is I'm going to try and shoot a 24mm shot, getting some of the ferns that you can see there in the foreground. I've just got to pray that this mist just doesn't lift anymore, because I'm a little bit late. It's 11 o'clock now, and I should have got here a little bit earlier. But this is so fantastic. I've just come a little bit further down, and you can see that, oh, it's just amazing, this. Oh, I just love all this lichen and moss just growing on the trees. It looks so incredible. So I think I'm going to try and take a shot in this direction. I've just taken one with some ferns in the foreground, but the ferns are moving really fast, so it's quite difficult to get them. It's quite windy. And the sun's coming in and out, so I've got to be careful about that, although there was a light ray before. So I'm just going to try and get these bits of woodland, this bit in particular, this tree particular, and then the path going round here. So let's go back to my camera and see what we can get. By the way, I should say that the reason I've got this on, you think it's completely balmy when I'm just off the coast of Africa, but I'm 1,000 meters up now, and the temperature's dropped to, I think it's around about, when I was in my car, it was around about 14 degrees C. When I left the coast, it was 28 degrees C. Yeah, that's why. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video from the UK and Tenerife, these amazing woodlands which I really didn't expect to find. And yeah, I'll leave you with a few photos that I've shot of these incredible laurel trees, and oh my word, they are amazing. It's been difficult though, but having that 24-70 has really helped, because I've been able to just try different focal lengths really easily and not think about different lenses. I've not thought, oh, I'll put on a different longer lens now or something. It just makes it just a little bit easier to go and just concentrate on finding compositions. I love woodland photography, it's so relaxing.